As you may have already noticed, some of the opponents in Elden Ring are exceptionally difficult, especially in the early game. However, there is a way to give yourself a better chance of overcoming them, by utilising some of the combat mechanics in the game. We're going to be going through one of the main ways to defeat your opponents more often, which is by staggering their stance, forcing them to drop their guard so you can land some clean strikes. So let's get into explaining how you do this. The first aspect of combat that we'll be looking at is the stance of your opponent. If you're able to break it, you'll be able to land a critical hit with your next blow, which for obvious reasons will help you out a lot in the fight. One of the main ways to break an opponent's stance is by landing charged attacks. These will take you longer to perform and can leave you open to a quick counter, but the payoff is worth the risk. Multiple enemies you face, especially ones with shields, seem extremely hard to break down. So whilst they're hanging back and defending themselves, you will have a brief moment where you can charge up an attack. As soon as you land the attack, you know that you'll have broken their stance as they'll wobble backwards and their shield will be displaced. It is vital that at this moment you hit them with a barrage of fast strikes, as this is where you'll be doing all of your damage. This breaks the mold a little bit in terms of battle mechanics in previous Souls games, where charged attacks were very rarely used due to there not really being much of a payoff for doing so. Another way to displace an enemy who is set up to defend your attacks is by utilising the jump attack mechanic in the game. This is something new to Elden Ring that allows you to perform a charged attack whilst jumping, to land down on the enemy with more force than a regular attack. If you throw in a combination of these two moves, you should be able to break down the opponent's stance fairly quickly. Of course, the longer you charge the attack, the more likely it is that you'll break the stance. So make sure to judge every single fight individually, and use as much charge as you think you'll get away with. A lot of it will come down to experience and knowledge of opponents, but for the early game, just stick to learning these two mechanics and where to use them in battle. To quickly go over how to perform these attacks, the charge strike is just a simple case of holding down shift whilst attacking. Then to charge up more, you can hold down the left click button. For the jump attack, you'll need to be holding shift again, then jump up and attack. These aren't guaranteed to overcome the enemy and knock them off guard, but if you do, you'll be able to deal great damage to them and will immediately be able to finish them off. The other way that you can break your opponent's stances is by using your shield to parry their attacks. Blocking an incoming attack can sometimes lead to them staggering and you having a brief moment to counter. Make sure that their attack is not a string of attacks though, as they will simply just hit you with the second or third strike. But if you time it right, they'll stagger back and be open for a critical attack from you. This strategy is especially great for people who max out their endurance, which as you can see is not my strong point. More endurance will allow you to block and charge attacks a lot more. As you can see, I often staggered the enemy but didn't have enough endurance left to capitalise with an attack. This is a slightly safer way to potentially displace the opponent, but make sure to take into account that they can also break your stance when defending and land critical blows on you. A lot of these strategies depend on what kind of strengths your character has, so check out your stats and work with them. So there was our guide on how to stagger enemies in Elden Ring. If this video helped you out in combat, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you all for watching and we'll see you in the next video.